Good morning, everybody. My name is Tuli. Let us begin our time together in this sacred space with these words. Out from the haze, we greet a new morning. Out from ongoing uncertainty, we seek an emerging clarity. Out from the silence of secrets, we find our voice.
Thank you, Dr. Tuli, and welcome everybody. Good morning. I am the Rev Emilie Boggis, and it is so good to be here with you. I invite you to really be here now. I know this might be a little bit hard given the fact that we are on a virtual format, and I really invite you to imagine that you've entered the sanctuary of your home. Let go of the distractions, the many, many things pulling at your attention. Let go of all the tabs that up on your screen. I invite you to simply be here for this time. As I ring our bowl gong, I invite you to allow the sound and the silence to bring you more fully to this sacred moment. Dr. Tuli and I are here with Misa Iwama, our director of music. Welcome, Misa.
Good morning. It is so nice to be here with everyone today. And happy Hanukkah to those who celebrate. You're going to be hearing more about festivals of lights during this service coming up. But I'll say here that in this season of longer nights, it's because of the darkness that we can appreciate the beauty of a lit candle and all the other things that sustain us through the wintertime. And one of those things that sustains us, certainly for me, is music. So welcome to one of the people whose music has been sustaining Beacon, Jackie Jones. Hi, Jackie.
Hello.
Thanks so much for joining us today. We're just lucky to have your warm presence.
Thank you for having me.
And I'm going to be so happy to hear you singing throughout this service. But I think that it might be a good time to actually put our minds also into an Advent space now, because we have this mystery of darkness and the glimmer of light, kind of that dichotomy. Whether or not we wait in this Advent season, whether or not we wait for holidays or for solstice, or I think that as we wait for better days that are going to be coming, hopefully as we look into our little screens, which actually kind of seem like we're looking into the windows of everyone's houses right now, I'm hoping that we have room still to rejoice. And then we're going to rejoice in being here this morning together.
I see the beauty in you. I see the power in you. I see the strength in you. And so it is. I see the joy that's in you. I see your light shining through. I see the greatness in you. And so it is. I can see it. It's right there before me. I can feel it deep in my soul. I just know that you are an angel full of magic and power and pure sweet love. I see the goodness in you. I see the wisdom in you. I see the strength in you, and so it is. I see the joy that's in you. I see your light shining through. I see the love that's in you, and so it is. I can see it. You know it's right there before me. I can feel it deep in my soul. I just know that you are an angel full of magic, power, and pure sweet love. I see the grace that's in you. I see the courage in you. I see the heart in you, and so it is. I see the beauty in you. I see the power in you. I see the greatness in you, and so it is. I see the beauty in you. And you can sing with me at home. Just repeat after me. I see the power in you. Now you sing. I see the greatness in you. I hear you, sound good. I see the goodness in you, yeah. I see the goodness in you. I see the wisdom in you. I see the wisdom in you. I see the strength in you. I see the strength in you. I see the joy in you, yeah. I see the joy in you. I see your light shining, light shining. I see the love in you. I see the love in you. I see the grace in you. I see the grace. And I see the courage in you. I see the courage in you. And I see the heart in you. I see the heart in you. And so it is. Yeah, yeah, yes, and so it is. I see the goodness in you. and so it is. I see the beauty in you, and so it is.
Oh, Jackie, and so it is. My goodness, I am going to wake up every morning imagining you singing straight to my heart. And I know that it's the case for Beacon. Oh, it's such a great honor and privilege to have you singing with us this morning. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And you ignited that place in my heart, which lets us move right into our chalice lighting, which will be led by the Kiley family. Thank you, Jackie.
Good morning. We are
Paolo, Pierre,
and George Kiley. This morning, we light our home chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith and practice, with these words. We light this chalice for the light of truth and reality, the warmth of love and compassion, and the fire of commitment and promise. We light this symbol of our faith and practice as we gather together.
We are deep into the season of festivals of light all over the world. Today in Sweden, Santa Lucia is celebrated. A month ago, Diwali, and tonight it is the third night of Hanukkah. In another few weeks' time, we will have Christmas, followed by Kwanzaa. Other than kindling lights in a time of dark, what do many of these stories have in common? Behind each is a story of war, violence, along with eventual hope and triumph. However, we tend to not focus on the difficult parts of the story. As Unitarian Universalists, we're committed to discovering the common threads of religious stories that bind us together. We are also curious about the story, both the beautiful and the difficult parts behind each celebration. The Jewish temple was raided and destroyed, and the oil was found to keep the lamp burning. That is what the miracle of Hanukkah is about. In the Hindu festival of lights, Diwali, Rama returned after 14 years in exile. Can you imagine 14 years of being forced to live in forests? The clay lamps welcome him and the goddess Lakshmi into homes. Today, in Sweden and in other Scandinavian countries, little girls, and sometimes little boys, wear white gowns with a red sash and an evergreen crown of lit candles to embody the spirit of Santa Lucia. They say Lucia, or Saint Lucy, needed the pretty lighted crown to see as she went about feeding hungry people throughout the countryside. And the red sash? Some say it represents the blood that was spilled when Lucia was killed for religious beliefs. This is the piece we don't often talk about, that Lucia was a Christian who did not want to be married and was punished because of it. Some stories say that she was tortured. Another miracle story that is told about Santa Lucia is that in Sweden, there was once a terrible famine at the height of winter when things are at their worst. A ship sailed across the ocean with a beautiful woman in white at the helm. She was so radiant that there was a glow of light around her head. And inside that ship was enough food for everyone to survive the winter. So why don't we speak of the horrors of each one of these festivals? Why are we mostly silent about them? Could it be that we're afraid of each story and the accompanying meanness of the humans who conducted those atrocities? Could it be because we think we might be capable of doing something similar ourselves? I think that's the secret of our legends and stories. If we can be brave enough to tell the fuller stories that underlie these festivals, maybe the lights will shine brighter during every celebration because we understand how difficult the journey was to get those lights to shine in the first place. And maybe, just maybe, the darkness will make us appreciate the light all the more.
As we enter the month of December and explore the theme of silence, there can be no better time and moment then a period of meditation, reflection, quiet, and centering to go deeper with this theme. Silence is not just the absence of sound. Silence is also sound. It is the still, small voice within. It is what we hear when we are within ourselves. First exploring what it means to be human for us, and then extending our awareness outwards to others. The pause between moments, the brief respite between the chatter of our thoughts and the busyness of our days is when we can rest in silence. Our breath accompanies us as we go deeper. We spend some time settling into our physical selves, imagining perhaps the different sounds from within. Our bodies are busy at work, and they do this sometimes with sound and sometimes in silence. The work continues. As our senses move to our physical external environments, we can experiment with engaging with what we hear as what it is without attaching a label to it, without attaching a thought to it. Perhaps there is a bird, perhaps there are dishes clattering, perhaps there are leaf blowers. We do not say to ourselves, I want more of the bird sound and less of the leaf sound. It is what it is. It is the field of auditory acuity. The pauses between the sounds is also sound. It exists. Silence is a sound. It can be our home. We can rest in it. And silence is universal, binding us to all beings everywhere, allowing us to know that our experiences are common. We are never alone in our suffering or our joys. We spend some time this month as the darker days get longer, spending time with ourselves in silence, a place we call home.
Each Sunday at Beacon, we invite you to light a candle of sorrow and joy, grief and celebration. Maybe you're lighting a candle of thanksgiving, a candle honoring an ancestor. Maybe you're kindling a light to acknowledge your anguish, a light to help you keep on keeping on. You are welcome to light a candle in your home. You can also lift up a name in the chat. We also light our candle of witness for Rayshard Brooks. Rayshard was a 27-year-old African-American restaurant worker who lived in Atlanta. He had been married 8 years and had 3 daughters who were ages 1, 2, and 8. He also had a 13-year-old stepson. His wife, Tomika Miller, described a loving and devoted husband and a father who couldn't deny his children anything, especially the girls. Tomika said, They got him wrapped around their fingers. She described her relationship with Rayshard as a friendship no one could break. She said, "He always kept my spirits up. He always pushed me to be better, helping me to develop mentally, spiritually, and emotionally." Rayshard is survived by his wife and children, his mother, and many siblings, cousins, and friends. We light this candle of witness for Rayshard Brooks.
In this moment, in this place, I remember who I am, letting fear and worry fall away from me. I open my eyes and see there is only love. There is only love. A love that heals, a love that sets us free. There is only love. There is only love. There is only love. A love that heals, a love that sets us free. There is only love.
Hi, I'm Richard Uniacke, Executive Director at Bridges Outreach. Thank you so much for your consideration for supporting our work. Prior to COVID really changing our world, we were focused on combining our outreach efforts in Newark, Irvington, New York City, and Summit with our case management, the addition of systems change aimed at objectively and sustainably ending chronic homelessness and veteran homelessness in the communities that we serve, and really leaning into the opportunity to develop relationships with the people we meet on the street, and with the hope that that enables us to serve them better. Since the end of March, we've really had to throw everything we could into just a couple of communities like Newark. And as you know, it has by far the greatest number of people experiencing homelessness in our state. Since that time, we've increased staff, we've created a 7-night per week outreach and engagement program that has led to literally thousands of engagements right on the streets of Newark. More than 1,000 people have been placed into shelter during that time, some of them in non-congregant single occupancy hotel rooms. And now more than 100 vouchers are being utilized in effort to create permanent supportive housing so that when these temporary solutions close, these folks do not find themselves again back on the streets. This success has only been possible because of the incredible team that we have and their willingness to remain on the front lines with all the necessary masks and such, and the support of our community. We have a lot still to do, including an RFP released by the city of Newark recently for permanent supportive housing vouchers, and Bridges is continuing to take bold steps. So thank you so much for your support, your consideration, and your time. Thank you.
I want to ask you to close your eyes for a moment and imagine. Imagine yourself arriving at Beacon this morning. As you enter, what are you holding onto as you enter this sacred time and place? Consider what you're holding in your mind, your heart, and in your body. And then take a deep breath and open your eyes. In seminary, I studied theology with Reverend Dr. Tandega. She often asked us to take stock of what we were carrying internally. Often she asked this just before asking us a searing question on Immanuel Kant or Friedrich Schleiermacher. What am I holding on to? Seriously? Well, I don't know. It took me 30 minutes to understand one sentence of Kant, so I'm probably holding inadequacy, fear, and doubt. That was my internal dialogue. But for Reverend Dr. Tandega, there was a methodology there. Tandega reminded us that on any given day, and especially on Sundays, the people who entered our sanctuaries would be carrying untold secrets, hidden behind masks of an ever-pretending perfectionism. Those secrets would silently enter the space, and we, her ministers in training, must never forget that those secrets sat with us. So I wonder what silences and what secrets you are holding onto in this moment. The silence of a recent visit to a doctor's office in which you hid your fears and symptoms in a desire to be a good patient. The silence of the hurt that we keep unleashing on the people we love most. The silence of countless microaggressions against us that leave us feeling exhausted and enraged. The silence of a savings gone, endless bills coming in, and a debt that we cannot bear. The silence of grief and our inability to find a new way of life. We tell ourselves to put on a good face, to look and play the part that everyone wants to see, and we bury our voice and our secrets deeper and deeper down. It isn't just an inner psychological and spiritual dimension, it is woven into the air we breathe. Do you remember a time growing up where you, in your naivete, noticed something and spoke it out loud, and then you felt the room freeze? Or maybe even the room experienced a backlash of anger, and you couldn't figure out what you had done that was wrong? But you learned in that moment to be silent. Do you remember a time growing up when someone else spoke a truth and you learned to be silent? From an early age, our families teach us what secrets to keep, what silences to bear. So do our communities and institutions, our churches and synagogues, our neighborhoods, schools and towns, our companies and workplaces. Consider the United States and how we kept the secret of white supremacy and the oppression of Black and brown bodies under the myth of the land of the free and the home of the brave. French writer Alexis de Tocqueville toured antebellum America in the 1830s and observed that only the surface of American society is covered with a layer of democratic paint. Only the surface. Our silence, our secret keeping is both personal and it's systemic. Writer Junot Díaz has said, "I spoke silence better than I spoke English or Spanish." For Díaz, a Black child from the Dominican Republic living after a dictatorship, and then a Black immigrant growing into personhood in America, he writes, "Silence was a priceless survival strategy in a post-dictatorship society that had not yet undone the work of that dictatorship. Silence was invaluable, holding your counsel, not allowing people to know what you're really thinking. That permitted for many, many families and communities survival." And then, of course, one immigrates and another layer of secrets begin to unfold. You're an immigrant from a father who comes over illegal. The concern that you might say something that could end up jeopardizing your family and end up plunging you into difficulties. Well, all of these together, some more intangible, more subtle, others more immediate and acknowledged, but all of these realms come together to form the idiom of silence. The idiom of silence. We, beloved, are taught to live like Echo, the wood nymph from the Greek mythology, stripped of our voices and doomed to echo the words of others, all for the sake of safety. Liberation, though, comes from the wisdom of lived experience from writers like Junot Díaz and poets like Audre Lorde. Like Díaz, Audre Lorde was the child of West Indian immigrants herself, growing up in Harlem in the heart of the Great Depression. As a first-generation American, as a Black queer woman, as an intellectual, and as a breast cancer survivor, Lorde knew firsthand about silence. For the last 2 Wednesdays, Reverend Rob and I have gathered with a group of Beacon folks at Refuel to understand the role of silence in our personal and collective struggles for liberation. Prophets like Audre Lorde and Junot Díaz teach us that silence is a methodology, not for keeping victims safe, but for keeping both perpetrators and systems in power. Díaz says that there are times and places where silence, in fact, does keep individuals and communities safe. However, that's not always the case, even though it may feel that way. Audre Lorde questions for some of us how safe it actually keeps us. She writes, "What's the worst that can happen to me if I tell this truth? Unlike women in other countries, our breaking silence is unlikely to have us jailed, disappeared, or run off the road at night. Our speaking out will irritate some people. It'll get us called bitchy or hypersensitive, and it'll disrupt some dinner parties." She asks us to differentiate discomfort from actual safety, and then to investigate what happens when we don't speak. The editor of her anthology, Roxane Gay, says, "When we say nothing, when we do nothing, we are consenting to these trespasses against us. And it actually causes more internal and external pain." Instead, Audre Lorde invites us to be brave for our own liberation and for the liberation of others. She shares a story of visiting her surgeon's office after her mastectomy, in which she was chided by the staff for not wearing her prosthesis because it would bring morale down in the waiting room. Lorde argued that a doctor's office in which every woman in the waiting room was facing breast cancer should not be a space where they are asked or required to be silent and pretend that everything was all right, because clearly it was not. Instead, Lorde advocated for speaking up. She wrote, "I was going to die sooner or later. My silences had not protected me. Your silences will not protect you. What are the words you do not yet have?" What are the words you do not yet have, she asks. What are the tyrannies you swallow day by day and attempt to make your own, until you will sicken and die of them still in silence? She says, we have been socialized to respect fear more than our own need for language, for speaking out, for breaking our silence. Lorde's challenge is to confront our fear. And at the end of her life, Audre Lorde changed her name to Gamba Adisa, meaning warrior, she who makes her meaning known. So we're going to invite you this week into a spiritual practice. You can see it in the chat. Consider a time in which you held your silence. Journal the details around that moment, and then each day return to it and consider, what would it mean for you to embody your warrior spirit? to make your meaning known? Does your secret keep you safe? Does it keep you and others from experiencing discomfort? How might speaking up liberate you? How might it liberate others? Our secrets, however, cannot remain in our journals, for our congregation is grounded both in personal and collective liberation. We have to create brave space, as Mickey Scott Bay Jones teaches us, brave space that lets us practice breaking our silence and empowering others to do so as well. I will never forget a new member at his first community group meeting. I'll never forget his honesty with people he barely knew. He said before us, I promised myself that I would no longer keep secrets. I would no longer hide my own story. It's going to be hard for me to be real with you. I've been pretending for so long. I'm going to need your help. It took my breath away. And it's the reason why our community groups speak out loud and as one body, Mickey Scott Bay Jones's words, we create brave space because there is no such thing as safe space. We exist in the real world. We all carry scars and we have all caused wounds. We amplify voices that fight to be heard elsewhere. We call each other to more truth and love. This space will not be perfect, we say, but it will be our brave space together, and we will work on it side by side. That's our sacred task, Beacon, to journey with one another as we learn how to break our silence. May it be so. Amen. Ashe, and blessed be.
You've gotta do when the Spirit says do. You gotta do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you gotta do. Oh Lord, you gotta do when the Spirit says do. You gotta sing when the Spirit says sing. You gotta sing when the Spirit says sing. When the Spirit says sing, you gotta sing. Oh Lord, you gotta sing when the Spirit says sing. You gotta dance when the Spirit says dance. You gotta dance when the Spirit says dance. When the Spirit says dance, you gotta dance. Oh Lord, you gotta dance when the Spirit says dance. You gotta laugh when the Spirit says laugh. You gotta laugh when the Spirit says laugh. When the Spirit says laugh, you gotta laugh. Oh Lord, you gotta laugh when the Spirit says laugh. You gotta do when the Spirit says do. You gotta do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you gotta do. Oh Lord, you gotta do when the Spirit says do.
Spirit calls this day, beloved. Spirit speaks. Spirit has spoken in the words of Audre Lorde shared with us when she wrote with surpassing certainty that only one thing is more frightening than speaking your truth, and that is not speaking. Spirit calls from the stories of Sancta Lucia, from the Maccabees, from Ram. Spirit calls from the stories of you and me, of us and the emerging. Spirit calls for the words to become incarnate, to take life, to take courage, to shatter the silences. And so when Spirit calls, may we answer with boldness and with love. When Spirit says do, may we live into the fullness of that call with all of our lives. So may you, may we, may the world herself be blessed, be abundant. Indeed. Amen.